And an egret stalks the reeds with one rusted cry as it stabs and stabs the mud with one lifting foot. Then silence is sawn in half by a dragonfly as eels sign their names along the clear bottom sand when the sunrise brightens the river's memory and waves of huge ferns are nodding to the sea's sound. Those are the words of Derek Walcott. He is a native St. Lucian, and this poem, Omerous, won him the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1992. Our exploratory journey through the Caribbean CIP countries this week brings us to St. Lucia, another volcanic tropical paradise with a British colonial legacy, important manifestations of which are its common law legal system and free market economy. It's also, incidentally, the only country in the world named after a woman. Here's what you need to know about St. Lucia's Citizenship by Investment program. Launching only in 2016, St. Lucia is the latest country in the Caribbean to open a CIP. A passport from St. Lucia gives you visa-free access to 130 countries, including Schengen, the UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, and India. To qualify for the program, just like in other Caribbean countries, you can either make a cash contribution, starting at $100,000 for a single applicant, or invest $300,000 in real estate. But St. Lucia also offers additional investment options: the acquisition of $500,000 worth of bonds, or an investment in an approved enterprise project starting at $1 million.
It can be summarized in 5 steps. Step 1 is an internal one. We get to know our clients. We conduct an internal due diligence checks. They sign a retainer agreement with us, and we provide our clients a very detailed, tailor-made list of the required documents and information. The second step is when we send or we courier the application package to our local office, and they review again the application, and if okay, they submit it to the government. Third step, the application is reviewed by the unit, citizenship unit, and if it's all complete, they will initiate the due diligence check. The fourth stage is when we receive an official letter of approval. The applicant then has to transfer his contribution to the government bank account throughout a designated escrow account. And finally, once the funds are cleared, the naturalization certificates are issued, and we apply for our clients' passports.
St. Lucia, which has a population of about 180,000, has been a sovereign state since it won independence from Britain in 1979. As we arrive in the country's capital, Castries, we learned that preparations are underway for the celebration of Independence Day, which is scheduled for the morning after. These daredevils are engaged in a dress rehearsal for tomorrow's motorbike show. Is that really how you spell cumin? I thought it was one M.
No, C-U-M-M-I-N.
You sure it's 2 M's in cumin? The capital offers an eclectic mix of restaurants and bars, shops and stalls, office buildings and churches, as well as a bevy of street vendors who have risen to meet the insatiable demand cruise ship tourists appear to have for knickknacks and souvenirs.
Alright, my name is Sunshine. I'm not a shark, I don't bite. I'm only a Rastaman. You know what's Rastaman?
Yeah.
I'm a Rastaman. Don't be afraid of me. I'm a Rastaman. I'm not a cop. Alright? One love, let's get together and feel alright. There is no white man and black man. One love, we all are brothers. One heart. Let's get together and feel alright. When you come to St. Lucia and visit the brothers, man, we have a lot of respect for our people. Alright, so don't be afraid. You're in good hands. Alright, you're in the hands of...
You're making a grasshopper.
How do you know that?
I can tell.
Yeah,
It's easy.
you're in the hands of the artists, you know. When you come here, don't let nobody tell you, hurry up, let's go. You're not in prison, you're on vacation.
It looks like a $2 grasshopper, am I right?
Hold it. Alright, yeah, one love, let's get together and feel alright.
Alright, that's enough fooling around for today. We're here to meet Nestor Alfred, head of the St. Lucia Citizenship by Investment Unit. He's really not that fond of great heights, but we've managed to convince him to take the interview on the roof of his building, as it offers a unique view of the Castries Harbor.
Is that there is a strong focus
on due diligence process. And the reason for this is to ensure that we always maintain the integrity of the passport, which will be issued to you, the citizens. The other advantage of this island in regard to post-citizenship for anybody who goes through this program is that this island has a quite vibrant international or offshore sector. And this sector allows persons to participate in the various areas of international financial services, whether it is trust administration, whether it's mutual fund administration, whether it's the creation of an international business company, or the establishment of an offshore bank. So, for example, if one had to relocate in St. Lucia, the head office into St. Lucia, one would be tax exempt in regard to 10 or more of its employees. It would have a tax-free duty status for all of the equipment and whatever else needs to be relocated to St. Lucia to accommodate its head office.
Our friend, local lawyer Mark Mirage, is keen for us to see his beloved island in all its natural splendor, and has a tour in store for us, one which he cryptically tells us will give us a different perspective of the island.
You think it's safe?
Safe? Yeah, I'm sure they have airbags. Safely back on terra firma, we switch to a more earthbound form of transportation and head for the southern city of Soufrière. We decide to take the scenic route, making frequent stops along the way. With an annual GDP of around $2 billion US, St. Lucia's economy is the biggest among OECS countries. The service sector accounts for 82% of the economy, the most important part of which is tourism. Some 350,000 stay-over tourists and an additional 700,000 cruise passengers visit the island each year. Many of the more well-heeled visitors make Marigold Bay their first port of call in St. Lucia. They come to bask in the sun and frolic in the crystalline waters, to witness firsthand the verdant rainforests and bountiful flora, and, not least, to see the island's trademark attraction, the pitons, officially a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But tourism alone isn't enough to take St. Lucia's economy where its new Prime Minister, Alain Chastanet, wants it to go. He's announced a plan to double the country's GDP in just a decade, which would necessitate an annual growth rate in excess of 7%. That may sound highly ambitious, but the Prime Minister has a plan, one that he shared with me when I spoke to him in Geneva last year.
St. Kitts had a CIP program to start off with, which came out of the necessity from the collapse of their sugar industry. And they use it as a diversification fund. And in addition to helping them diversify their economy, it also helped them pay off debt. And the IMF became a big believer in the CIP programs. So Antigua and Dominica and eventually Grenada followed suit. So the CIP basically created a new source of capital, to fuel now that economic development. And what's great about the CIP program, once it comes into the coffers of government, it's what we call free capital. It's unencumbered. And it's about now taking those monies to drive investment or pay off debt to be able to stabilize your overall economies. And we're seeing that market segment is growing because the world, unfortunately, is becoming even more unstable. So the desire of people, even Americans, to have secondary passports is growing. And some of the leading countries in the world have reached the pinnacle of their development on the backs of CIP. Canada and United States of America and even England. So it's very difficult for them to now criticize us coming in. So it really comes back down to, in terms of due diligence, that really separates one country from another in terms of the success of your programs. But CIP absolutely critical component.
No visit to St. Lucia is complete without a visit to the Mount Couberil Historical Adventure Park. It's an old plantation that's been converted into a botanical garden and which still produces cocoa beans, coffee, and copra, in addition to a vast selection of tropical fruits.
Cool.
Okay, so this plant, it's turmeric. Okay, this is just the plant. In order to get the turmeric, you have to dig the soil. Now, turmeric is good for blood clot, rheumatism, and inflammation.
And for beef casserole.
Exactly. Okay, so this is the cocoa pod, and when you break it open, this is what the bean inside looks like.
Can we try?
Yes, you get a bean, suck on it. You do not bite. If you do so, you'll get a bitter taste. If you swallow, it won't grow. All you do is to look out for it.
We're disappointed to discover that this chocolate factory doesn't have any Oompa Loompas, but that doesn't mean there's no showmanship on display.
Okay. Okay, so this is how it was done. In St. Lucia, 70% of the beans are being exported to Hershey's and Nestle, whilst the other 30% is used locally. For the 70% we're exporting, whilst the beans are drying out in the sun, the heat of the sun gets the shells on the beans very rough. So before we export those beans, we polish and preserve the beans.
At Mount Couberil, cocoa beans aren't the only things being hung out to dry in the sun. That's it for this episode of Caribbean Citizenship by Investment. I'm Christian Nessam. See you next time.